There's something more destructive than outright malice, something Dietrich Bonhoeffer believed was responsible for immense suffering during World War II. Unlike evil, this force can't be confronted head-on. It can't be reasoned with or exposed because it blinds people to the truth before they even realize what's happening. That force is stupidity. But why did Bonhoeffer see stupidity as an even greater threat than evil itself? Why did he describe it not just as an intellectual failure, but as a moral and social crisis? In this video, I will break down Bonhoeffer's insights, helping you recognize the signs of stupidity in others and perhaps even in yourself. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a German pastor, theologian, and anti-Nazi dissident born in 1906. For years, he tried to wake people up. He warned about growing hatred, blind obedience, and how ordinary citizens were turning a blind eye to the horrors happening around them. He thought that if he could just get them to see the truth, they would change. But no matter how much evidence he showed them, no matter how obvious the truth was, people refused to listen. One day, after years of resisting the Nazi regime, two men came to take him away. His father met him at the door, his expression heavy with sorrow. Bonhoeffer was arrested and thrown into a prison cell where he had nothing but time to think. From that lonely cell, he looked back on what had happened to his country. A nation once known for its great thinkers and philosophers had been reduced to a mob of cowards and criminals. Not everyone had been evil. Many of them weren't even bad people. They had simply stopped thinking. And that's when it hit him. The real enemy wasn't malice, it was stupidity. Here's why that realization was so terrifying. Bonhoeffer believed that evil, at least, knows what it is. A malicious person is aware they're doing harm. Even the worst individuals often carry guilt or hesitation, which means evil can be confronted, exposed, and sometimes even stopped. But stupidity? Stupidity is something else entirely. It's immune to logic, blind to evidence, and completely closed off to reason. You can argue with a person who has bad intentions. You can't argue with a fool who refuses to think. A stupid person won't reconsider when presented with facts. They'll reject them outright. They won't debate. They'll dismiss, mock, or attack. And worst of all, they're absolutely convinced they're right. That's why stupidity is more dangerous than malice. A wicked person might be persuaded to change. A stupid person never will. Martin Luther King Jr. put it best. Nothing in the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. And Mark Twain had an even blunter take. Never argue with stupid people. They will drag you down to their level and beat you with experience. We've all dealt with people like this, the ones who shut down any real conversation, who respond with empty phrases like whatever or I don't care, who avoid real engagement because deep down they don't want to challenge their own beliefs. It's frustrating, almost like dealing with a narcissist, except there's no fixing it. And here's where it gets even worse. Stupidity doesn't just exist at the individual level, it spreads. Stupidity doesn't stay contained within one person. It infects entire societies, groups, and movements, especially those that demand obedience over independent thinking. The power of one depends on the stupidity of many. History has shown this time and time again. When people stop thinking for themselves and simply go along with the crowd, that's when dangerous ideologies take hold. The rise of authoritarian regimes, mass hysteria, and blind loyalty to destructive leaders all stem from this phenomenon. People don't lose their intelligence overnight. They give it away in exchange for belonging, certainty, or security. And once they've surrendered their ability to think, there's no limit to what they can be convinced to do. They'll commit atrocities and believe they're doing the right thing. They'll spread lies and call it truth. They'll destroy lives and think they're on the right side of history. This is why stupidity isn't just an annoyance, it's a weapon. And the people who know how to manipulate it use it to their advantage. So, what's the scariest part? You can't fix stupidity with reason. That's why the only way to fight it is to understand it. The truly terrifying thing about stupidity is that it never questions itself. It doesn't feel doubt. It doesn't stop to reconsider. It moves forward with absolute confidence, making it an unstoppable force once it takes hold. Bonhoeffer saw this firsthand. He had grown up in a Germany filled with brilliant thinkers, artists, and philosophers. People raised on the ideas of Goethe, Kant, and Beethoven. Yet somehow, many of these same people surrendered themselves completely to the Nazi ideology. They didn't become less intelligent, they became less independent. This is why Bonhoeffer argued that stupidity isn't a lack of intelligence, it's a lack of moral courage. A person can be highly educated and still be utterly foolish in their actions. Take Martin Heidegger, for example, one of the most influential philosophers of the 20th century. Despite his brilliance, he became a devoted Nazi and remained unrepentant about it until his death. He wasn't stupid in the traditional sense, but he had chosen stupidity. On the other hand, someone with little formal education can be incredibly wise, simply because they have the courage to think for themselves. Because stupidity isn't about IQ, it's about the willful surrender of critical thought. And here's the key takeaway. No one is born stupid, but anyone can become stupid. The question is, how does that happen? And more importantly, how can we stop it? Stupidity isn't just a lack of intelligence. It's a state of mind people fall into when they stop thinking for themselves. It's not something a person is born with, but rather a condition they allow themselves to slip into, often without realizing it. But this isn't just an individual problem, it's a societal one. Stupidity thrives in environments where independent thought is discouraged, where people blindly follow the crowd, obey orders without question, and accept whatever they're told without thinking critically. Bonhoeffer saw this firsthand during the rise of the Nazi regime. Ordinary people, many of whom were neither evil nor unintelligent, became willing participants in horrific actions, not because they were inherently bad, but because they stopped questioning. They abandoned their ability to distinguish truth from lies. They became tools of a larger system. Bonhoeffer believed this wasn't just a coincidence, but a kind of social law, one that George Orwell also captured in 1984. In Orwell's world, Big Brother didn't just control people's actions. It manipulated their minds to the point where they couldn't think clearly anymore. Their intelligence wasn't taken from them, it was surrendered. Bonhoeffer saw the same thing happening in real life. When power rises, stupidity spreads. Under the influence of political or ideological control, people willingly give up their independence. They embrace slogans, propaganda, and oversimplified narratives. They stop questioning and start repeating. They no longer see reality as it is, but rather as they're told it should be. And this is where stupidity becomes most dangerous. It is both stubborn and passive. A stupid person does not think for themselves, but they are absolutely convinced they are right. When confronted with facts or logic, they don't reconsider, they resist. At this point, you're no longer dealing with a person who thinks. You're dealing with the ideas that have taken over their mind. This is why Bonhoeffer argued that stupidity is far harder to combat than evil. A malicious person can recognize their wrongdoing, but a stupid person will keep spreading falsehoods even when they've been completely disproven. And this is why you cannot argue someone out of stupidity. They have to be freed from it. Until that happens, debate is pointless. But there's good news. You can protect yourself from falling into this trap. If stupidity isn't about intelligence but about mental enslavement, then the key to avoiding it is to protect your ability to think freely. Bonhoeffer warned that people become stupid when they stop questioning, stop analyzing, and stop thinking for themselves. The first and most important defense against stupidity is to never stop thinking. Always ask questions, challenge authority when necessary. Don't believe something just because everyone else does. If an idea can't withstand scrutiny, it's not worth believing. Stupidity thrives in environments where people conform without thinking. So whenever you find yourself agreeing with a group just because it's easier, stop and ask yourself, am I thinking for myself, or am I just going along with the crowd? History has shown that when large numbers of people stop questioning, disasters follow. Don't let the comfort of fitting in override the importance of seeking truth. Friedrich Nietzsche warned about this same problem, calling it herd mentality. He argued that anyone who wants to rise above the masses, his concept of the Übermensch, must break free from blind conformity. But stupidity isn't just about social pressure, it's also about manipulation. Those in power want people to be stupid. It makes them easier to control. That's why propaganda, misinformation, and emotional manipulation are so effective. Think about it. Political leaders don't want you to think critically. They want you to react emotionally. Manipulative movements don't want you to question. They want blind loyalty. People who seek control don't encourage independent thought. They label it as dangerous. If an idea is presented in a way that discourages questioning, it's not designed to inform. It's designed to manipulate. And here's another key sign of stupidity. It loves simple answers to complex problems. The truth is often uncomfortable, inconvenient, and messy, But stupid people prefer easy, black and white explanations. They want a single villain, a single cause, a single solution. And leaders who rely on stupidity exploit this by offering oversimplified narratives. If a leader tells you all your problems come from one group of people, they're lying. If a movement demands total loyalty, it's dangerous. If an answer sounds too easy, it probably is. Real wisdom comes from embracing complexity, questioning authority, and resisting the urge to believe in comforting lies. Bonhoeffer believed that stupidity cannot be defeated with mere instruction. It requires liberation. People trapped in a system of manipulation and conformity must first be freed externally before they can free their own minds. But true wisdom comes from internal liberation, breaking free from fear, blind loyalty, and the need for approval. The only way to avoid stupidity is to commit to lifelong intellectual and moral independence. This was Bonhoeffer's warning to the world. Stupidity isn't just frustrating, it's dangerous. And if we don't actively fight for independent thought, we won't just be battling stupidity. We'll be ruled by it. The choice is ours. Stay alert, stay critical, stay free.